everything you attract is a reflection of who you are in consciousness, right? Like it basically means like who you believe yourself to be. That's what you tend to attract in this world. All right. It's one of the things that he talks about too is fascinating. Brother Jeff from the Wolfpack sent it to me. It was like a 2 hour long lecture from Neville Goddard. And one of the things that he talks about is a lot of people when they're trying to attract things into their life, right? They have this desire, and from the moment they plant that seed, they're constantly wondering when they're going to attract that thing or reach that goal. Okay, let's use that terminology because some of you guys don't like the woo woo. So you have this goal in mind and you want to achieve this goal and you don't know how you're going to do it, but you're working towards it and you're constantly wondering when you're going to achieve this goal. And the thing is that if you're constantly wondering when you're going to achieve this goal, you tend to stay stuck in places and you never actually achieve that goal. And a lot of it is it's subconscious because your subconscious, it needs to believe that you've already achieved that goal for it to grind away to make that a reality for you. But if you're constantly saying, when am I going to get this? You're subconsciously telling yourself, I don't have it already. And your subconscious just says, yeah, you're right. You don't have it already. And just sort of keeps you there, right? And so one of the things that he says is you got to stop focusing on when you're going to achieve this goal and realize that just the seed being planted that you have this goal makes it already true. It's already happening for you. So instead of worrying about when it's going to happen, you have to realize that that in between time of when you plant that seed and when you actually get that goal, that whole process is you becoming the guy that would have that goal. Right? Like that's kind of mind blowing if you think about it. Because let's say you want to be a wealthy millionaire and your whole life you've lived in poverty. In order to keep that money once you get it, you have to learn to have the mindset of someone that would have that kind of money. You would have to learn how to become the kind of guy that would earn that kind of, right? So that whole process of going from absolute poverty to riches is a process of you becoming that guy, okay? But the seed's already been planted. You already have this. If you believe in the quantum theory of things, where all possibilities exist at once, like you're now living in the possibility that you have this stuff, but you still have to become that guy, right? It doesn't just magically happen because if you get that money before you become that guy, like you win the lottery or something like that, you're going to blow it. You're going to lose it all within a couple of years. That's why a vast majority of lottery winners are back at square one within a couple of years because they never became that guy that would keep that kind of money. Do you see? Fascinating stuff. Fascinating stuff. Paradigms can be reprogrammed, but only through consistent internal repetition with conviction and feeling. Okay. I talk about it quite extensively in Psychology Paradigm, right? But it's not just repeating words over and over again, that repetition by itself, it's the feeling behind those words that really cement that stuff in, right? So, and going back to Neville Goddard says affirmations without the feeling behind it are just meaningless words. So you have to like, let's say you're a guy that does affirmations, which I highly recommend. I think I talk about affirmations in all my books. But if you're the kind of guy that uses affirmations, you have to, as you're saying them, picture yourself already having achieved that. Like, what would that feel like? Right? How would you act? So going back to being the prize, you have to imagine what it feels like to be the prize. How would you act? How would you act in that moment? How would you act when a woman responds the way she would with the man to you, right? how, how would that make you feel? Like if a woman, if you like, let's say you saw a movie with like a handsome leading character and a woman's just picture James Bond, like how women react to James Bond. If you were that guy, if you were in Bond shoes, how would that feel? Having like these hot women walk up to you and sort of give you the eyes and all this kind of stuff. How would that make you feel? You have to sort of think about that in the moment, right? Feel that feeling in the moment. And so as you're saying those affirmations, picture that scene in your head and really focus on how good you feel, right? You would probably feel really confident. You might even have tingles in your arms, right? You might have, like almost like a giddy feeling. I see guys in the wolf pack all the time when they hit it off with a chick and she's totally into whatever they're doing. It makes them feel good, right? How would that make you feel? You got to sort of concentrate on that sort of thing. Another woo-woo guy that I study is a guy named Wallace D. Wattles. He wrote a phenomenal book called The Science of Getting Rich. And if you guys go to my YouTube channel and look at my playlists, I did a whole series on the science of getting rich. So if you don't want to read that book and you just want my take on it, go check out that playlist. But he would always talk about how you have to act in the certain way, And a lot of that is you're not doing it out of desire for a thing, but out of identity, right? So if you desire something, if you are still wishing for it, you're telling your subconscious you don't have it, right? So likewise, if you tell yourself you want to be the prize, your subconscious only hears that you're not the prize. You're not really the prize. You're just faking it right now. You're just a geek with techniques. You're just Mystery, the pickup artist. So instead, you must not only tell yourself that you're the prize, right? So like going back to the beginning, some guys tell themselves that they're the prize, but they're not, but they're still getting ignored. So you can't just tell yourself you're the prize. You have to do it in the present tense. You also have to feel like you're the prize until you don't have to tell yourself that you're the prize anymore. Is this resonating with you guys? You have to tell yourself that you're the prize and actually feel like what it would be like to actually have these women would respond to you in a certain way. And then once you start actually doing this sort of thing, you're going to start carrying yourself that way. You're going to walk with your shoulders back, your chest out. You're going to have a little more pep in your step. You're going to have a little more confidence. You're going to walk in and sort of just assume chicks like you, right? When things started clicking for me, right? When I started studying this stuff and I started getting better at dating, one of the things that I would do is I would listen to, and I still do this, but not this particular affirmation, but I would listen to recorded affirmations at night. And what's cool about that is as you're sleeping, you're dreaming this stuff. And so that means like you're basically living it in your dream. It's fascinating. It's fascinating when you wake up from a deep sleep and you could recognize that your dream is following along with the affirmations that you're listening to. Like when you sort of like have to go to the bathroom at night and you sort of become somewhat coherent and you can hear the affirmations and it's picking up right where your dream left off. Like that's a cool feeling, right? It's a cool feeling, but I would tell myself that I was the most handsome man in Colorado and that women would be coming up to me and talking to me and women would whatever. And it would happen because I would sort of expect it to happen. I would walk around the supermarket and I would happen to notice chicks looking at me and stuff like that. And some people might laugh at that, whatever. I don't care. It was really happening. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. When you do this sort of thing, it starts to actually show up for you. And it's not that it wasn't happening before. It's a lot of it was you didn't notice it before, you know? That's a whole like reticular activating thing. Okay. 3 stages of belief. You have your intellectual understanding of it, right? So you know what you should be, on paper, right? You know what, you should be working on your money, muscles, game, and frame and be the whole package kind of guy. But then you have this emotional contradiction, right? You feel disconnected from it because you're not there. You're not really there yet. You're not that guy. Okay. So you're like, I know I should be that guy, but I'm just not. I'm not getting the results. I'm not seeing it. So then the next stage is embodying that identity, right? You are it before anyone else sees it. Okay. This is sort of acting as if and, sort of faking it until you make it. But as you're doing that, acting as if and faking it until you make it, you have to really mentally start trying to force yourself to feel what it feels like to be that guy as if it's already true. Okay. And then once you're doing that and you're feeling the feeling as if it's already true, eventually it becomes a habit and you don't have to actively start forcing that feeling and start imagining and visualizing that feeling and acting as if you just act this way now. Now it's a habit, you see? So there's some different suggestions or different practices that I would suggest on a daily basis that you could do. A mental diet, right? Cut out thoughts that reinforce I'm not enough, right? Stop watching negative content online. Stop, paying attention to what women say in the comments. I don't pay attention to any of the negative crap I get. Some people I just rub people the wrong way sometimes. Like, oh, okay, especially online when you're trying to get people's attention, sometimes you have to say inflammatory things to grab attention because there's so much content out there. We're all sort of competing for people's attention and eyes. So sometimes I say like outrageous crap online just to grab your attention. And I'm like, okay, hey, now that I got you here, here's some actionable information that can actually help your life. Right. Anyway, so cut that out. Cut out the negativity. One thing, getting away from women and stuff like that. One thing that I cut out several years ago, and I highly recommend you cut out, is the news. The news is nothing but fear and propaganda to get you in your emotions, to keep you tuning back in. And like 95% of the crap they talk about on TV has no impact on your daily life. And once I cut that out and I stopped focusing on the pro wrestling that is politics, because politics, the Democrats versus Republicans, it's all one big WWE SummerSlam match, right? It's all bullshit, and people they're just saying all this different stuff to get you in your feelings and emotions. Meanwhile, in back rooms, they're shaking hands on policies that actually screw you over, right? So like I just cut that crap out. I realized, man, how negative is that? And since I did that, man, my mental health is just so much better, so much better. You want to do some visualization with emotion, right? I do a morning scripting exercise every morning. First thing I get up, I grab a coffee, I grab my vitamins for the day, and then I take those and then I sit down. And what I've been doing lately is just writing out a sort of a story from the first person perspective of what my life looks like in the future, as if it's already happening. And the cool thing about writing it out and just sort of talking about all the cool things that are happening is I can picture this in my head. Like, have you ever written a story out and you're picturing that story in your head? That's visualization. So scripting that stuff out really helps with that visualization. And then just like you almost immerse yourself in the story, picturing it. And like you almost can't help but feel the feeling of having already achieved it. Right. It's kind of a fun exercise. I love doing it every morning. Inner dialogue auditing you can start doing. So catch moments where you're still trying to be chosen, right? Or for instance, let's say you're working on turning your marriage around, right? And you're sort of you're still focused on what your wife's doing or not doing and what kind of reaction she's doing. Okay, catch yourself in the moment. A lot of this requires awareness. Realize you're doing it and shake it off and be like, I don't need to focus on her. I need to focus on me, and just keep doing that until you stop focusing on her. And then you'll notice that things just miraculously start changing, right? And for the love of God, watch that negative self-talk. A lot of you guys don't even realize how bad your negative self-talk is. But if you're constantly putting yourself down, saying, oh, I'm so stupid, or I'm such an idiot, or man, I really blew that with that chick, right? Like that's negative self-talk, and it's not helpful. It actually just reinforces in your subconscious that you're not good enough. You see what I'm saying? So you need to really watch that sort of thing. Instead of like, let's say you do go on a date and it doesn't go as well as you had hoped. Don't look at it like, oh, I'm so stupid and I suck at this and, women hate me and whatever. Like, look at it like, I could have done this better. I could have, I think I was talking too much. I think I was giving a little too much away. I think I could do this better and maybe practice the 80-20 rule a little bit better. Whatever. Just look at it like a learning opportunity and make it a positive.
New episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Subscribe now.